Hey there! Want to boost your English in the coolest way possible? You're about to follow a story that's going to help you learn real, everyday English, not boring textbook stuff. By simply listening to this, your brain will pick up words, phrases, and structures like a native speaker does. So if you're serious about leveling up your English, hit that subscribe button right now, give this a like, and let's get into it. Trust me, you don't want to miss our daily stories that make English fun and easy. Andrew Tate was not the type of man to spend quiet afternoons in coffee shops. His life was built on speed, fast cars, private jets, high-stakes deals. But on that bright afternoon in a modern European city, he found himself sitting at a small outdoor cafe table, sunglasses on, elbows resting wide. It was strange even for him, but there was a purpose. He was waiting for a teenage boy named Tyler. Tyler was 15, maybe 16. A local kid, half curious, half nervous. His parents owned a modest hotel across the square, and somehow Tyler had ended up in a quick chat with Andrew the evening before. Now, the boy wanted to learn about mindset, confidence, maybe even money. Andrew found it amusing. He didn't usually waste time on teenagers, but something about the way Tyler listened made him give a reluctant, "Come by tomorrow afternoon if you want to hear more." So here they were. Tyler walked up, awkward in faded jeans and a plain t-shirt. He greeted Andrew with a shy grin, pulling out the chair slowly as if afraid to scratch the tiles. Andrew just gave a small nod, the sort of gesture that meant, "Sit, kid. Let's see what you've got." The boy didn't talk much at first. Instead, he looked around at the bustling street, at stylish people with shopping bags, at others on sleek scooters zipping past. It was a world he didn't quite belong to. Andrew noticed that, of course. Reading people was one of his oldest talents. Andrew began speaking about how most people live like prisoners without walls, trapped by opinions, by fears, by endless comfort zones. Tyler listened, eyes widening every now and then. It was clear no teacher at his school had ever spoken like this. No adult in his family either. They probably told him to focus on good grades, get a stable job, keep his head down. Andrew's voice stayed low, almost casual, but every sentence seemed to slice through air like a blade. He talked about risk, about pushing past embarrassment, about the insane advantage of being young and having nothing yet to lose. Tyler leaned forward, drawn in without realizing. When the waiter returned with cold, sparkling water and a tiny espresso, Andrew didn't pause. He kept laying out ideas, comparing life to a giant chessboard where most people never moved beyond pawns. Tyler tried to keep up. His mind was racing. This was a different kind of education, one that felt electric under his skin. At some point, a breeze swept through the plaza, stirring napkins and carrying laughter from a group at another table. Tyler exhaled, trying to process. He still hadn't asked a real question. Andrew seemed fine with that. He was performing in his own way, planting seeds. Then Tyler finally spoke up. It wasn't a brilliant question, more like a nervous admission. He told Andrew how he often felt invisible, like nobody expected much from him. His words came out in a rush, almost embarrassed. Andrew didn't comfort him. He just leaned back and gave a small smirk. That expression said more than a long speech. It said, "Good. If no one expects anything, then everything you do becomes a surprise advantage." He explained that invisibility at Tyler's age was a gift. No spotlight, no pressure. It meant he could experiment, fail, try again. It meant he could build skills in silence while others wasted time. By the time they noticed him, it could already be too late for them to catch up. For a few minutes, they sat in a comfortable pause. Tyler's shoulders seemed to drop, as if a small weight had been lifted. Andrew took a sip of water, glanced around the square, then back at the kid. The conversation shifted to more tactical stuff. Andrew asked what Tyler actually liked doing. The boy muttered something about computers, editing videos, silly projects with friends. Andrew nodded once. Content creation, digital skills, not a bad start. He encouraged him to double down, get better than everyone else's age. While they were busy playing games, he could be building the foundation of something serious. A nearby church bell rang out, marking the hour. People looked up, conversations paused for a heartbeat, then resumed. For Tyler, though, time felt like it had stopped. He was listening with everything he had. Andrew didn't sugarcoat anything. He told Tyler that life was going to be unfair, brutally competitive, often lonely at the top. That most people would mock him if he started trying to stand out. But he also painted a picture of what it felt like to travel the world free, to have power over your hours, your income, even your city. Tyler tried to imagine it. Him, in a fancy hotel, maybe someday in Dubai or Miami, doing deals or creating big projects. It seemed so distant, but less impossible than it had an hour ago. By the end of their first sit-down, Andrew stood and dropped a few bills on the table. He gave Tyler a look that was half challenge, half approval. Then he said something brief, basically telling him not to waste the conversation they just had, not to go back to old habits. Then he walked off, leaving the boy there with a buzzing head and a heart that suddenly beat with bigger dreams. Tyler watched Andrew's figure disappear into the moving crowd. The teenager felt changed somehow, though he couldn't explain it. Like he'd just opened a door and glimpsed a bright, intimidating future that was his to claim, if he had the guts. He stood there for a long time, replaying every word. The square felt different now, like it was full of invisible possibilities he'd never noticed before. Eventually he turned and walked back toward his parents' hotel, steps a little quicker, mind already planning what tomorrow might bring. Andrew wasn't the type to waste follow-ups. A few days later, he arranged to meet Tyler again. This time it was in a different part of the city, a slick rooftop lounge that overlooked a cluster of tall glass buildings. The sun was setting slow and orange behind them, throwing gold across every window. Tyler showed up looking just a bit sharper, collared shirt, cleaner shoes. It was subtle, but Andrew noticed. They grabbed seats by the edge, where a gentle wind kept the heat from settling too heavy. Andrew didn't start with any pleasantries. He asked Tyler what he'd done since their last conversation. Tyler hesitated, then admitted he'd spent hours watching tutorials on editing, playing around with his laptop, even building a tiny channel to post clips. His voice cracked a bit with embarrassment, like he thought Andrew might laugh. But Andrew just gave a short nod, that approving tilt of the head that somehow felt like a medal. He told Tyler most people wouldn't have done even that much. They'd have left the cafe last week buzzing with inspiration, then gone home, scrolled social media for hours, and forgotten it all by the next morning. The fact Tyler had taken even small steps put him ahead of 99%. Then Andrew shifted the topic. He leaned back, eyes scanning the horizon like he was hunting opportunities hiding in the skyline. He spoke about leverage, how real power wasn't just about working hard, but about building something that worked for you even when you were asleep. Tyler tried to follow, his brain stretching around new ideas. Andrew broke it down with examples. He pointed out that if Tyler mastered editing, he could start charging people, building a reputation. Later he could train others to work for him, multiply projects, scale. Eventually, he could take a cut of everything, while spending his days on bigger plays. It was a long chain of growth, one Tyler had never pictured before. They ordered sparkling water with lime, and Andrew told Tyler to look around. He asked him to imagine who in this rooftop lounge was actually free. Most people, Andrew said, were pretending, flashing watches they hadn't paid off, sipping cocktails on borrowed money, chained to bosses back home. It was only the very few who built systems that could afford real choices. Tyler's eyes kept darting to different groups. Laughing couples, loud friends taking selfies. It was weird to think maybe none of them were truly as successful as they looked. Then Andrew dropped a little personal story, almost like by accident. He described how in his early 20s, he was flat broke, living in a freezing apartment with no hot water, chasing little kickboxing purses just to pay rent. Tyler was stunned. The idea of Andrew ever struggling seemed impossible. But that made it real. It made it reachable. Andrew's voice dropped low, serious. He warned Tyler about the years ahead, the distractions, the friends who'd pull him back into lazy habits, the endless tiny comforts that would try to keep him average. Tyler swallowed hard. He knew exactly what Andrew meant. Even that morning, he'd almost spent hours gaming instead of editing. The waiter came by again, checking if they wanted anything else. Andrew waved him off, eyes still locked on Tyler. He said if the boy kept showing up, kept doing uncomfortable work, in 5 or 10 years, he could be the one sitting here mentoring some other wide-eyed kid. Tyler's heart jumped. The idea felt huge, terrifying, but also electric. They spent the next half hour sketching out tiny plans. Andrew challenged Tyler to post one new video every day, no matter how small. To stop overthinking, stop waiting for perfect. Quantity over quality, because quality would grow automatically if you produced enough. Tyler's phone buzzed a few times. Messages from friends asking where he was, maybe planning to meet up for ice cream, maybe a movie. He ignored it, eyes still locked on Andrew, soaking up every sentence like sunlight. As the sky turned darker, tiny lights sparked across the city below them. Tyler felt like he was watching the world from a throne, even if he hadn't earned it yet. That feeling, that rare taste of what could be, burned into his mind. When they finally stood to leave, Andrew clapped Tyler lightly on the shoulder. It wasn't exactly warm, but it wasn't cold either. It felt like a promise. Tyler walked away feeling taller, like his chest was stretched by a new kind of hope. That night, back in his tiny room at the hotel, Tyler couldn't sleep. He opened his laptop, ignored the memes and pointless videos, and instead began working on a fresh project. His hands were clumsy, mistakes everywhere, but he kept at it. Outside, the city was alive with cars and music and laughter. Somewhere out there, Andrew was probably closing a deal or driving some beast of a car through neon-lit streets. Tyler grinned to himself. Maybe one day, he'd be right there too, side by side. He fell asleep finally, head full of edits and voiceovers and new ambitions. For the first time in his life, he wasn't dreaming about being rich someday. He was dreaming about the exact steps to build it. The next morning, Tyler woke up feeling strangely powerful. His body was tired, but his mind was crackling. Sunlight spilled across the little desk where his laptop still sat open from the night before. He stared at it for a second, then without thinking twice, pulled the chair out and started working again. Hours slipped by. He barely noticed his phone buzzing. Notifications from friends, memes, some girl he'd been trying to impress, sending him a snap of her coffee. All of it felt small now. He didn't ignore it because he was being stubborn. He ignored it because it honestly just didn't seem interesting anymore. Around noon, he stepped out for a quick walk. The streets of Sydney were busy, full of people heading to lunches or shops, the city breathing its normal weekday rhythm. Tyler moved through it almost like he was separate from it, watching. His brain kept replaying Andrew's words. How real success meant building something that worked for you even when you weren't watching. That thought hooked into him, dug in deep. When he got back, there was a short message from Andrew. Just 3 lines. Don't waste the day. Push something out. Send me the link tonight. No fancy encouragement. No emojis. No pat on the back. But Tyler smiled. That was better. It felt like being treated seriously, like Andrew believed he could handle it. So Tyler sat down again, edited, recorded a small voiceover, fumbled through color grading. By evening, he'd uploaded his first proper clip. It wasn't perfect. He could list 20 flaws off the top of his head. But it existed. It was online. That was more than he'd done in his whole life until now. He shot Andrew the link. 10 minutes later, Andrew just replied, "Good. Do it again tomorrow." That night, Tyler lay in bed, headphones on, listening to motivational videos, even though he'd always mocked that stuff before. Something had changed. He wasn't consuming it to get hyped. He was consuming it because it was like fuel to keep moving. Every clip felt like a small push, nudging him to get up and keep grinding. Days rolled into a week. Each morning he made something new. Small edits, shortcuts, experimenting with transitions. He felt awkward a lot, clumsy, sometimes downright embarrassed. But he kept posting. Every evening he'd shoot the link over to Andrew, who never gave him big praise, just short, sharp feedback, or a tiny nod that basically meant keep moving. One afternoon, Andrew called him out of nowhere. No text first, just a ring. Tyler picked up, heart racing like he'd been caught doing something wrong. Andrew didn't waste time. He asked how Tyler was handling people's opinions. People talking trash yet? Friends laughing at your clips? Tyler hesitated, then admitted, yeah, some friends were joking around, saying he was trying too hard, acting like an influencer, that sort of crap. Andrew laughed. Actually laughed, right into the phone. "That's perfect," he said. "Means you're doing something worth noticing. Stay uncomfortable. It's the only way you grow." That call lasted less than 3 minutes, but when it ended, Tyler felt like he could run through a wall. By the second week, small things started happening. A stranger commented on one of his videos, actually complimenting the pacing. Another person messaged him asking how he did his sound layering. Tyler was floored. He didn't even realize anyone beyond his circle was watching. But apparently the internet had reached out, noticed, and decided he was worth a tiny bit of attention. That was addicting in the best way. He sent Andrew a voice note that night, kind of rambling about how crazy it felt, how he couldn't believe he was actually moving forward. Andrew just replied with, "Keep stacking wins. Ignore the noise. 10 years from now you'll thank this version of yourself." Tyler saved that message. Listened to it twice the next morning when he felt tired and doubted himself. By the end of the month, Tyler was almost unrecognizable, at least in his own eyes. Same skinny kid, same shirts, but his brain felt wired differently. He noticed angles when he walked down the street. He thought in transitions. He heard music beats and immediately pictured cuts and overlays. He met Andrew one more time in the same rooftop spot. This time, Andrew didn't talk about systems or money. He asked Tyler how it felt, actually grinding on something every day, actually building a small reputation from nothing. Tyler tried to explain it. It was hard. The words felt too small for it. It's like, I don't know, like I'm not just watching other people live anymore. I'm doing my own thing. Andrew nodded, didn't smile, but his eyes softened for a split second. "That's the only way to live," he said. "Everything else is just surviving." They sat together until the sky went navy blue. The city lit up below them like 1,000 tiny futures. Tyler felt like one of those lights might belong to him soon if he just kept pushing, kept staying uncomfortable, kept ignoring all the noise. When they finally parted ways, Andrew didn't say goodbye, just told him to send tomorrow's link again. Tyler promised he would, and for the first time, it didn't sound like a hope. It sounded like a guarantee. Wow, if you've made it to the end, You've just absorbed hundreds of natural phrases, tons of daily expressions, and even some advanced sentence structures, all without studying boring grammar rules. That's the magic of stories. Your brain picks up the patterns automatically, and you'll find yourself speaking smoother English before you know it. We drop videos like this every day, so if you want to keep improving effortlessly, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And hey, tell me in the comments, what's one dream you'd chase if you stopped caring what other people thought? I'd love to read your answers.